Welcome to the channel and thank you for joining us today. In this video, we take a closer look at the growing public exchange between Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt. Today's topic focuses on Barron Trump's calm yet pointed response to a bold statement made by Karoline. These are two rising conservative voices, each with strong opinions and different styles. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. Barron Trump has remained largely out of the spotlight for most of his life. But in recent years, we've seen moments where he steps forward with thoughtful, deliberate words. His response to Karoline Leavitt's latest statement shows a more direct and confident tone. He doesn't seek attention through drama. Instead, his message reveals clarity, control, and calculated reasoning. This video examines not only his words but also the way he chose to deliver them. Karoline Leavitt is known for her passionate rhetoric and firm stance on conservative principles. She speaks boldly, often addressing issues that resonate with younger voters who crave authenticity and strength. In her latest address, she made a comment that drew attention across conservative media. Some praised her courage, others questioned her strategy. Barron Trump's response brings a different energy, reserved yet strong, quiet yet impactful. The contrast between them is what makes this moment so important. When public figures disagree within the same political camp, it often reveals deeper divides about values and direction. Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt may both speak from the conservative platform, but the way they express those beliefs is fundamentally different. This discussion gives us a rare chance to observe how two potential future leaders shape their positions, not just with facts, but with presence, delivery, and tone. That's what this video aims to explore. One of the most notable elements of Barron Trump's response is how he remains composed and clear. Instead of meeting boldness with aggression, he meets it with analysis. His reaction isn't about one-upping Karoline, but about offering a counterbalance. He raises thoughtful questions, emphasizes long-term perspective, and chooses words that suggest depth rather than division. That's a leadership quality worth paying attention to, especially in a political era defined by soundbites and outrage. This video also provides historical context. How often do we see young voices in politics engaging each other with respect instead of hostility? Not often. That's why the exchange between Barron and Karoline matters. It's not just about what they said, but how they said it. Their words reflect different branches of the same political tree. Some believe this shows strength through diversity of opinion. Others worry it signals potential fragmentation. We explore both views. Let's also consider timing. Barron Trump chose to speak out just days after Karoline's statement made headlines. That wasn't accidental. In politics, timing is everything. His measured pause before responding may have added weight to his message. It signals that he listened carefully, processed what was said, and chose a moment where his words would resonate. This type of strategy is often overlooked, but it reveals an understanding of public momentum and media dynamics. The media's reaction to this exchange has been mixed. Some outlets focus on the disagreement itself, framing it as a clash or political tension. Others highlight the maturity in both responses, noting how unusual it is to see figures disagree with substance rather than insults. What does this tell us about the current media environment? Are we hungry for drama, or are we starting to value thoughtful debate again? That's a question worth asking. For viewers, this is more than just a political moment. It's a learning opportunity. Watching two intelligent individuals present different views can help us better understand the nuance in political dialogue. It challenges us to think beyond party lines and consider character, integrity, and vision. Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt represent the new generation of voices, and how they interact may set the tone for what comes next in conservative leadership. This video presents commentary, analysis, and perspective. We're not here to take sides, but to unpack what each figure brought to the table. Barron Trump's words carry the weight of calm leadership, while Karoline Leavitt brings passionate urgency. Together, they show us how political discourse can evolve not through shouting matches, but through intelligent exchange. Keep watching as we break down their exact statements, examine public reactions, and consider what this moment means for the political future. Barron Trump's message was not just a rebuttal. It was a reminder that leadership also means knowing when to step in and how to speak. His language wasn't overly technical or vague. It was clear, accessible, and rooted in values rather than attacks. This kind of rhetoric is often underestimated in today's loud media cycle, but it carries power, especially with audiences who seek maturity, not spectacle. It suggests he understands his role and responsibility. Karoline Leavitt's initial statement that sparked Barron Trump's response was framed as a call for urgency and strength. Her message resonated with those who believe the conservative movement must act boldly and without hesitation. She spoke to frustrations and passion within her base. But Barron's reply reframed that urgency not as a mistake, but as something that must be guided by wisdom. This difference in approach is central to what makes this exchange so meaningful. We should also look at how both voices reflect generational changes in political tone. Karoline represents an assertive, fast-moving message style, confident, immediate, and emotional. Barron brings a more contemplative energy, one that invites patience and deeper consideration. Neither is right or wrong. They simply show us that the next wave of conservative figures won't all sound the same. And that diversity of tone could actually strengthen the broader message of the movement. The reactions online have been telling. Supporters of Karoline praised her courage and called for more leaders to speak directly and without hesitation. Those who favored Barron's response appreciated his composure and depth. Both reactions matter. They show that the conservative audience is not a single voice but a chorus. It contains people who want passion and people who want precision. And the real power might lie in finding a balance between both. When analyzing public figures, we often focus too much on style over substance. But in this case, style is substance. The way Barron and Karoline delivered their views told us just as much as the content of their words. Barron's thoughtful pause and calm presence felt intentional, not out of avoidance, but out of care. Karoline's directness showed that she believes strong leadership requires bold speech. Both approaches speak to different leadership philosophies. Social media amplified this exchange. Clips of both statements went viral. People didn't just watch, they commented, debated, and shared their own perspectives. That kind of engagement shows how eager people are for real political discourse, especially from younger voices. This wasn't about party loyalty. It was about vision. Viewers wanted to understand how the next generation sees America and what kind of leadership they will bring to national conversations. Barron Trump's response also included subtle themes of unity. He didn't attack Karoline. He acknowledged the concerns she raised and agreed with some of her points. But he emphasized that urgency must be matched with strategy. That distinction might seem small, but it speaks volumes. It shows he understands how easy it is to divide, and how much harder, yet more important, it is to build consensus without sacrificing core beliefs. Karoline Leavitt, in her follow-up, stood by her words. She didn't backtrack or change course. That confidence appealed to many of her followers, who see her as someone who refuses to soften her convictions. This moment tested both leaders, and they passed in different ways. Barron showed strength through reflection. Karoline showed strength through unwavering clarity. And this contrast made their interaction a defining moment in youth-led conservative politics. Observers across political lines took notice. Some liberal commentators expressed surprise at the maturity in Barron's tone. Others in mainstream media tried to downplay the moment. But for politically engaged audiences, especially young conservatives, this was something to pay attention to. It wasn't just another headline. It was a signal that the next era of political dialogue could include more respect, more substance, and more honest disagreement without hostility. This video breaks down the full sequence of events, from Karoline's initial remarks to Barron's thoughtful response. We'll examine the language each used, the framing of their messages, and how their words resonated with different audiences. But more than that, we aim to show why this interaction matters. Because politics is not only about winning arguments. It's about shaping narratives, influencing values, and showing the public what true leadership can look like. Leadership today is often judged by who can dominate headlines or spark viral moments. But Barron Trump's approach reminds us that leadership also involves restraint and reflection. He didn't rush to respond. He waited, listened, and chose his moment carefully. That level of awareness suggests he's not just reacting to public pressure, but thinking several steps ahead. In a media environment where every word is scrutinized, his precision may prove to be a powerful long-term asset. Karoline Leavitt's supporters argue that her energy and tone reflect the urgency of the moment. To them, she's not being reckless, she's being real. They believe her style speaks directly to Americans who feel ignored or frustrated. That emotional connection matters. Politics isn't just policy, it's about trust. And Karoline's boldness builds trust among those who feel their voices are rarely heard in the halls of power. That's what gives her words lasting impact. We must also consider family legacy. Barron Trump grew up watching his father navigate one of the most controversial and closely watched presidencies in American history. That experience shaped his perspective. It gave him a deep understanding of media, criticism, and influence. His response to Karoline isn't just a political reaction. It's the voice of someone who has seen firsthand how powerful words can build or destroy credibility. That wisdom is evident in his delivery. This exchange also shows us how conservative identity is evolving. Gone are the days when everyone on the right agreed on tone or tactics. Barron and Karoline represent two different branches, both rooted in tradition, but with different visions for the future. Their moment of disagreement doesn't weaken the movement. On the contrary, it reflects its richness. It shows that the future of conservatism won't be led by copies of the past, but by unique, individual voices. As we continue breaking down this moment, it's important to look at the content of Barron Trump's reply. He didn't just criticize or defend, he recentered the conversation. His message called for patience, long-term thinking, and unity. He acknowledged urgency but argued that it must be paired with wisdom. That duality is what made his message resonate. It felt more like a mentor guiding a movement than a peer challenging another young voice. The way Karoline framed her original statement reflected a sense of mission. She spoke about the need for action, for taking a firm stand, and for not waiting for permission to lead. That tone connects with a generation that sees delay as dangerous. Her view is that change must be swift, unapologetic, and driven by conviction. Whether or not you agree with her, her passion is undeniable. And that passion is part of why her voice is growing. Barron Trump, on the other hand, is not chasing applause. He's building credibility slowly. His measured tone may not generate instant virality, but it does build trust over time. This contrast matters. One leads by fire, the other by calm. Yet both seem to understand the weight of their words. This exchange didn't devolve into chaos because each knew that their message would shape public perception, not just of themselves, but of their generation. Political growth often happens through challenge. When two respected voices disagree, they sharpen each other. That's what happened here. Barron's response challenged Karoline to think deeper about her tone, just as her statement challenged him to speak up. That mutual pressure, when handled with respect, leads to better arguments, more focused leadership, and ultimately, a more engaged audience. And audiences today are hungry for real debates, not just shouting matches. As we compare the rhetorical strategies of both figures, we see a split in communication philosophy. Karoline Leavitt uses clarity, directness, and speed. Her aim is to ignite action. Barron Trump uses restraint, reflection, and structure. His goal is to build understanding. In many ways, their styles reflect two necessary aspects of leadership, the spark and the strategy. And perhaps the future will require leaders who can blend both without sacrificing principle. This moment is also a test for viewers. It asks us not just to take sides, but to reflect on what kind of leadership we value. Do we want leaders who move quickly and forcefully? Or those who take time to build consensus and think ahead? The answer might be both. What this exchange proves is that conservatism's future is not monolithic. It will be shaped by conversation, by contrast, and by the willingness to speak up, even among allies. Looking deeper into the communication dynamics, Barron Trump's message operated at a higher emotional intelligence level. He didn't just respond to the words Karoline used. He responded to what those words implied about leadership and responsibility. He emphasized listening, patience, and grounded conviction. That shift from emotional reaction to composed engagement is not accidental. It shows a disciplined understanding of how leaders must behave when under pressure, not to escalate, but to guide the tone of conversation. Karoline's rhetorical style, by contrast, leverages urgency and clarity to energize her base. She avoids political vagueness, which many younger voters have grown tired of. Her phrases are sharp and leave no room for misinterpretation. That direct approach can create moments that feel bold and necessary, especially in times of uncertainty. In that way, she represents a new kind of conservative voice, one that speaks to those disillusioned with slow political process or moderate compromise. The context in which this exchange happened also matters. America is at a cultural and political crossroads. Voters are divided, tired, and increasingly looking for authenticity. The fact that this conversation between Barron and Karoline didn't descend into chaos is part of what made it so powerful. Instead of insults, we saw articulation. Instead of silence, we saw thoughtful pushback. These are qualities that many feel are disappearing in public discourse, and their presence is refreshing. Media coverage of the exchange has varied. Some platforms highlighted Karoline's boldness as a symbol of new generation assertiveness, while others praised Barron's maturity and poise. Few, however, focused on the bigger takeaway. This wasn't just about one disagreement. It was about showing the conservative base that its future includes multiple voices, and that healthy internal dialogue is not weakness but strength. That's a message often lost in today's polarized political atmosphere. In political media, attention often goes to whoever speaks loudest. But Barron Trump is showing that you don't need to shout to be heard. His style prioritizes meaning over volume. In doing so, he challenges a media system that rewards controversy over clarity. His calm, composed tone feels almost revolutionary in an era of political noise. It reminds audiences that real influence isn't measured by retweets, but by how well ideas stand the test of time. Karoline Leavitt's role in this conversation should not be minimized. Her willingness to speak firmly and without apology gives voice to a segment of Americans who feel neglected by traditional politicians. She articulates their fears, hopes, and demands in a way that feels personal. That kind of connection is rare, and it's why her influence is growing. She isn't just speaking for herself. She's channeling a collective frustration into political engagement. This exchange isn't the end of a debate, it's the beginning. As both figures continue to gain prominence, we will likely see more of these moments. And that's a good thing. When rising leaders can engage each other respectfully and with substance, the entire movement benefits. It sends a message to voters that disagreement doesn't mean division, and that diversity of thought is a strength, not a liability. That kind of political culture is worth promoting. For younger viewers, this moment offered something rare, political discourse they could relate to. Both Barron and Karoline are closer in age to many first-time voters than most political commentators. Their words feel less filtered and more personal. That authenticity builds trust. And trust is essential if we want to re-engage younger generations in politics. Seeing people who look, sound, and think like them on the national stage can be incredibly motivating. Some may try to reduce this entire interaction to rivalry, but doing so misses the point. This isn't about who won the exchange. It's about how both voices brought different but valuable ideas to the table. Barron's calm strength and Karoline's confident clarity are not enemies. They are complementary forces. If the conservative movement can harness both styles effectively, it could create a broader, more inclusive, and more persuasive message going into future elections. As we look ahead, the lessons from this exchange are clear. The next generation of political leadership is already forming, and it doesn't look like what we've seen before. It's thoughtful, bold, diverse in style, and rooted in values. Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt have shown that young leaders can rise without losing their individuality. And by continuing to engage publicly and respectfully, they're setting a new standard for what it means to lead in the modern era. One key takeaway from this interaction is how personal branding plays a significant role in political storytelling. Barron Trump has cultivated an image of quiet strength, thoughtful presence, and intellectual depth. That image shaped how his response was received, not as a political attack, but as a principled position. When a leader remains consistent in tone and message, audiences begin to see them as trustworthy. And that trust becomes a long-term asset, especially in unpredictable political climates. Karoline Leavitt, on the other hand, has built her brand on momentum and clarity. Her sharp rhetoric cuts through confusion and speaks directly to those who feel urgency. In the world of social media, that's a powerful strategy. Her messaging spreads quickly because it's emotionally resonant and straightforward. People may not always agree with her, but they rarely misunderstand her. That kind of directness builds a loyal audience, one that shares, supports, and amplifies her voice online and beyond. The political maturity both figures displayed is not typical for their age. Most political newcomers struggle to find balance between authenticity and polish. But both Barron and Karoline seem to have found their rhythm. This exchange proved they can engage in real dialogue without falling into personal attacks. For many viewers, that's a refreshing shift from the hostility seen elsewhere in politics. It opens the door for others to follow suit and raise the standard of conversation. Audiences today are more media savvy than ever. They can spot inauthenticity, scripted lines, and forced reactions almost instantly. That's why Barron Trump's thoughtful and measured tone stood out. He wasn't performing for applause, he was speaking from principle. His focus wasn't on winning the moment, but on creating something more lasting, clarity. And that focus is what elevated his response above the noise. It was less about rebuttal and more about perspective. For Karoline, the situation provided a chance to solidify her role as a bold voice willing to challenge anyone, even respected allies. That kind of courage isn't always welcomed, but it is often remembered. Her assertiveness signaled that she's not waiting her turn to lead. She's stepping forward now. And for many younger conservatives, that's inspiring. They want leaders who act with conviction, who don't ask permission to speak truth as they see it. This moment also revealed a critical lesson in political tone. Disagreement doesn't need to mean disrespect. Barron and Karoline clearly saw the same issue from different angles, and both articulated their positions without crossing personal lines. That approach models the kind of leadership desperately needed in today's environment. It says to audiences, you don't have to choose between silence and outrage. You can speak with strength and respect and still be heard. Looking at the broader movement, their interaction highlights a generational shift. The conservative base is no longer defined solely by traditional talking points. It's evolving, blending legacy values with modern voices. Barron represents the disciplined era of political experience. Karoline embodies the firebrand willing to shake the room. Together, they signal a future that is not uniform, but multifaceted. And that diversity of tone and strategy could be the key to long-term cultural and political relevance. Social media platforms exploded with reactions to the exchange. Supporters of both sides praised the way their preferred figure handled the moment. But interestingly, many neutral viewers expressed appreciation for the tone of the conversation itself. In an age of hostility, this respectful clash stood out. That's a lesson to other content creators and political figures alike. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it that leaves a lasting impression. This moment will likely be studied in political communication courses. It wasn't just a minor social media clash, it was a test of public narrative. Barron Trump succeeded in projecting maturity beyond his years. Karoline Leavitt succeeded in establishing that youth doesn't equal silence. Their exchange was not just reactive, it was strategic. And in doing so, both earned new levels of visibility, credibility, and influence that will serve them in future political battles. In the end, what made this moment powerful was its unexpected grace. Instead of chaos, we saw clarity. Instead of insults, we saw intention. The conservative movement, often criticized for internal division, showed it could hold competing voices without tearing itself apart. Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt proved that strong voices don't need to shout down others. They can coexist, challenge, and even sharpen one another. That's the real victory in this conversation. Another powerful aspect of this exchange was the way both individuals embodied their political ideals without turning the conversation into a spectacle. Barron Trump demonstrated that patience and composure can lead to more effective messaging than dramatic statements. His strategy wasn't to overpower, it was to clarify. That approach earned him respect across the spectrum, especially from viewers who are tired of empty slogans and crave real substance in political dialogue. Karoline Leavitt's performance shouldn't be understated either. Her confidence, even in the face of disagreement, revealed her commitment to her message. She didn't walk back her opinions or dilute her intent. Instead, she pushed forward with clarity. This sends a strong signal to her supporters. She doesn't hesitate when challenged. That fearlessness, tempered with professionalism, is what makes her stand out. It's also what makes her one of the more compelling rising figures in today's conservative space. The impact of this exchange extended beyond the video itself. Within hours, clips were trending on social media, sparking conversation across platforms. What made it go viral wasn't controversy, it was tone. Audiences recognized the rarity of a disagreement that stayed respectful. This kind of interaction proves that people are hungry for civility, especially in politics. The more leaders can meet that demand, the more trust they'll build with the public. Commentators across ideological lines weighed in on the moment. Some praised Barron for his maturity, calling him a voice of reason in a noisy world. Others applauded Karoline for refusing to soften her message, calling her the fighter the movement needs. Interestingly, many concluded the same thing. Both figures made the movement stronger. When disagreements sharpen ideas instead of fracturing unity, the result is resilience. That resilience will matter in future elections. This exchange also showcased the importance of preparedness. Both speakers came equipped with facts, stories, and arguments. Neither was caught off guard. That level of preparation sent a message to viewers. Young leaders take their role seriously. They're not just passionate, they're informed. And in a time when misinformation is everywhere, that kind of intellectual discipline is incredibly important. It inspires confidence and sets a standard that others will need to meet. What happens next for Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt is uncertain, But one thing is clear, they are both now part of the national conversation. Their words carry weight, their tone sets precedent, and their ideas are influencing a new generation of voters. That influence doesn't just come from age, it comes from how they choose to use their platform. And right now, both are using it to push the movement forward in their own unique ways. For content creators, this is also a blueprint. The success of this topic wasn't built on outrage, it was built on interest. Viewers were pulled in because the conversation felt real, respectful, and relevant. That's a reminder that viral content can come from integrity, not just intensity. If you focus on stories that matter and tell them well, the audience will come. And they'll stay if they feel like they're watching something that respects their intelligence. Viewers walked away with something deeper than entertainment. They were given an example of how political disagreements can unfold productively. They saw that it's possible to hold different views without hostility. That kind of modeling matters, especially for young viewers still forming their views. If we want to raise a generation of engaged, respectful, and informed citizens, moments like this provide the roadmap. And that's one of the most valuable outcomes of this entire dialogue. In every generation, a handful of voices rise early and shape the future. It appears Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt may be two of those voices. Whether or not one agrees with their views, their presence, tone, and strategy are setting a new standard. They're showing that the next era of leadership will not be defined by volume, but by vision. And that vision, grounded in values, clarity, and mutual respect, is what politics needs more of. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this analysis insightful and meaningful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. We aim to bring thoughtful conversations and breakdowns that go beyond headlines. This moment between Barron Trump and Karoline Leavitt won't be the last, and we'll be here to cover what comes next. Until then, stay informed, stay respectful, and remember, real leadership listens before it speaks.